everybody, welcome to DDC Studios. This is DDC Studios owner and publisher, David Hayner. And I thought this week we could discuss some topics that related to our up-and-coming release of The Domain. And today's video in particular has to deal with the use of public domain superheroes and characters. And specifically their use in comic books. Now, I've actually been a big fan of the use of public domain characters in modern comics because, you know, they're especially when it comes to the public domain superheroes, there's a reason why they've lapsed into the public domain, because they're basically forgotten. So it's kind of cool being able to take these forgotten characters from, you know, the 1930s and 40s and breathe new life into them. Like, for instance, the first issue of The Domain features prominently characters by the name of the Black Owl and Captain Future. Two characters that really haven't seen much of the light of day the past few decades. However, they are both really good pastiches of kind of the both Superman and Batman tropes, if you will. But they're still their own unique thing. So, you know, you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. Now, I guess I'm kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit. Let's take a look at this question. Let's say you are wanting to introduce a public domain character into your mini-comic story. Well, my first bit of advice is simply do the research. A simple Google search actually nets you many really good online resources that list various public domain characters, whether they be comic characters, literary characters, what have you. And that's really a good way to start. As a matter of fact, down in the description below, we'll actually have links to a few of my favorite online resources when it comes to looking up these public domain characters and seeing where they can be used and how they can be used. Now, the simplest way I can think of to describe how it's legal to use these formerly owned characters is quite simply this. You are free to use any non-copyrighted stories and material pertaining to these characters. Usually that entails basically their Golden Age comic book adventures. You can then take that information and their costume design and build upon it, change it, use what you want to use, don't use what you don't want to use, what have you. Now, where this gets a little tricky is sometimes these characters have been used in copywritten material. A really good example is the Dynamite comic book series that Alex Ross initiated quite a few years ago, called Project Superpowers, that used public domain Golden Age heroes and characters. Now, would you be able to use, say, the Black Terror, for instance? Well, yes, you could. That character is in the public domain. However, you would not be able to use any of the changes to the character that were instituted in the pages of Project Superpowers, simply because those materials are still copywritten. I know that maybe gets a little confusing, and it does. It takes quite a bit of work and research to kind of weed through what you can use and what you can't use. But basically, my rule of thumb, especially when it comes to using like Golden Age heroes, is stick to the Golden Age material. As long as you stick to that material that you know for a fact has lapsed into the public domain, there won't be any concerns as far as legalities. But whatever you do, really don't look at these modern comics that are utilizing these characters for inspiration, because that's where the waters can tend to get a little murky. Now, why would you want to use a public domain character? Whether it be a superhero or even characters from literature, much like Alan Moore did in his League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Well, quite simply put, there's still a lot of meat on those bones, if you will. There's a lot of directions you can take these characters that already have an established backstory. The draw to use these public domain characters, quite simply, is the same draw that you see with comic book creators wanting to go to work for Marvel or DC and kind of play in, say, the Spider-Man or the Superman sandbox, because they really dig the character. They have a story they like to tell using them. Simple as that. And sure, you can just straight up create your own 100% original character. And I really do recommend that. But in my case, I have always had a deep love and appreciation for Golden Age comics. And I was actually fans of a lot of these characters, the Clock and the Black Owl in particular, for many, many years before I even thought about making comics. So the fact that I could actually use these characters that I've known and read about for years and years, it kind of gives me a little bit of a charge. It really gets my creative juices flowing, if you will. The other approach that we've taken is we're not exclusively using these public domain characters. We're actually kind of mixing in some original characters of our own in an attempt to kind of flesh out the world that Dylan and I are kind of creating with these characters. So, there's many different routes that you can take, using public domain superheroes as well, because you can do your totally original idea using these pre-made characters, having changed their costume around, if you wanted to, backstories, what have you, like we have with the domain, or you can actually just make a straight up continuation of these original characters' adventures, that haven't been published since the 1930s, which is another really neat way to go. I've seen a lot of creators do that, and to me that's also exciting, because it kind of answers that big what if question, especially for all of these forgotten heroes, is what if the basically the character hadn't died, or at least the copyright hadn't died out. So really, I do recommend, especially if you are just starting out and making mini comics, and especially if you're looking at doing some superhero stories, definitely check out the public domain route. I think you'd be surprised with the depth of characters that you're going to find. The wealth of these public domain characters is actually kind of mind-boggling. I'm not exaggerating. It literally took Dylan and I months of debate and research to finally settle upon the group of Golden Age heroes we were going to introduce into this story. And quite frankly, it was some of the most fun I've ever had when it comes to creating comics. It's just doing all of that research and discussing it with Dylan, and us, taking that original concept and maybe turning it on its ear just a little bit. So like I said, it's definitely something you should really at least think about doing. And also, don't just stop at the comic book characters either. There are just an absolute ton of literary characters that have also lapsed into the public domain that, once again, you can either take their concept and kind of turn them on their ear to your liking, or just straight up continue their adventures in your own way. So I think that's going to do it for today's video. But please, I would really appreciate it if you'd like the video. Definitely hit the subscribe button and ring that bell for notifications. You can also check in the description. We have the link to our comic book and original art store there, along with our brand new t-shirt shop, where you can pick up your very own official DDC Studios t-shirt. And we actually will be debuting here in under a week 2 more t-shirt designs, and I can actually let the cat out of the bag a little bit here in this video. They pertain to the so this coming weekend is actually going to be a really big public domain superhero weekend, if you will. But once again, thank you ever so much for listening, and please feel free to share this video on social media, as the word of mouth is greatly appreciated by us here at DDC Studios. So thanks a lot for listening. Talk to you later. Bye.